Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the BIPOC Happy Hour. Today is Friday, September 25th. BIPOC Happy Hour is glad you all came. Thank you all. Thank you for joining us. BIPOC is Black, Indigenous people of color. Today is a good day. Today in our presence, today at the bar, we've got Senator Bobby Joe Champion on here with us today. Woo! Yay! Yay, yay, yay. So how's everybody doing today on this Friday?
I'm doing well.
Good stuff. I just want to make sure everybody's still alive with us.
Well, it's Friday. Everybody's ready to get off. This is the last thing you got to do today. So,
Right.
we got to get this hour in.
We all drinks that.
Huh?
Anybody got drinks? I'm the only one.
Right here.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. I am ready to run the bar. I'm ready.
I got my pink lemonade.
All right. We're doing it all up. All right. So we're going to have Dennis to start us out on this show today.
I've been thinking, a lot of people have been asking me, what do I do on a regular basis on every day? What is my job? And I don't have a title for that yet. But I wanted to do something different than what we've been doing since this Zoom thing is happening. How do we get closer to our legislative body and get to know them personally, one-on-one, all of us, because we represent the GLBT POC community. What are some of our issues? Do they know them at the Capitol? Do we have any political power? Do we need to vote? What is it that we need to do as POC people of color or LGBT to get our voices heard? So I thought I would want to invite the senator on to get, since this is voting season, and I think some of us even are felons. I know you have some of the information on how felons can vote or can't vote or the misconception and all that. So I thought that if we can get to know you better and find out some questions on, what you do at the Capitol for us and why haven't we heard of your name before now? Some of us have been here for 10 years and we just found out, about you. So we want to find out more about you and how we can help you or you can help us on that journey. I think you're muted.
Dennis, you want me just to spring in there? So let me start here by saying, first of all, thank you for inviting me to be a part of your happy hour tonight. We know that we're in the voting season, and it's always important for us to talk about the importance of voting, what voting means, what are some of the critical issues that are happening. Before I go any further, I want to thank Nikki Love, who I see at every community event, and you name it. From Pride to Black Pride to Juneteenth to, supply giveaways, you name it. And so it's probably it's probably clear that if you haven't been to any of those things, and if you haven't been in the community, then you wouldn't know my name. Because I'm out and about all the time, on television, everywhere, fighting for every single issue that would improve our quality of life. Whether it's healthcare. I even remember when I did an initiative in order to, make sure people who are, affected by HIV and other things, that even in the Black church, to talk about the importance of that and the importance of accepting people and not necessarily casting judgment on people. If you want to talk about conversion therapy and how we've been fighting against conversion therapy, because that's been something that's been a real challenge. If you don't know that I was one of the people who also thought it was important when we were talking about gay marriage, supporting that effort, but also making sure that people were supporting this notion of not allowing voter ID. And I wanted those issues to always be married because I thought that it was important for us to support both things, right? No voter ID, but also allowing people to marry whoever they feel comfortable marrying. So there's been a number of issues that I can talk about, even been the chief author of Restore the Vote. You talked about that, and we can talk a little more about that later, but let me start here. I am Bobby Joe Champion. I was born and raised in North Minneapolis. I'm the 5th out of 6 kids. My parents migrated from the South. My dad is from Hope, Arkansas. My mom is from Hooks, Texas. They migrated from the South to the North. I was born and raised in North Minneapolis. I went to Jordan Junior High School, Lincoln Elementary School, Jordan Junior High School, North High. I'm a Polar. went on to Macalester College and William Mitchell for law school. So I practiced law as well. I represent Senate District 59. People hear those numbers and they're like, well, what does that mean? That's all of North Minneapolis. That's the North Loop. That's over half of downtown, half of Bryn Mawr and Elliott Park. That encompasses Senate District 59. I was first elected in 2008 to the House of Representatives, the Minnesota House of Representatives. I often remind people 2008 is when Barack Obama first got elected. So I got elected at the same time. I remained in the House for 2 years. And when Barack Obama came back for a second term, that's when I ran for the Senate. And I've been representing folks in the Senate since 2012. You want me just to talk about, do you have any other questions? Oh, well, I'm married. My wife is Dr. Angela Champion. She has her doctorate degree in pharmacy. So she does a lot of work on the pharmaceutical side. We have 2 sons, Jalen and Miles. Jalen is in his second year in college in Colorado. Miles, this is his senior year in high school. So we're trying to figure out what school that he's going to go to. But no matter if we look at any of our families, my job is always to seek and fight for opportunities that improve our quality of life. I'm a member of the Black Caucus.
Awesome. Okay. No, I'm just saying awesome. Mm-hmm.
Yep. We have a Black Caucus in the state legislature. We call it the PACI Caucus, People of Color and Indigenous Caucus. Because we have me and other African Americans, Somali, other indigenous people that are part of that caucus as well. We believe that it's important to unify our voice and work together on the critical issues that affect our communities. And we know that list goes on from education, health care, home ownership, affordable housing, environmental issues, fighting climate change. We know that we have the most challenging aspects of any notion that you put forward. So we're constantly fighting for those. So if you have some specific questions, I'd love to answer those questions. Love to answer anything that you want. Any specific questions?
Well, the first question we want to talk about is the reform you did for as felons being able to vote. Let's just get that out and start that there.
Okay, thank you so much. So I've been the chief author of Restore to Vote. That's what it's called, right? Restore to Vote is my attempt in order to say that individuals who are not incarcerated, who may still be on felony probation, should have the right to vote. Voting is at the bedrock of our democracy. Your vote is your voice. There's a person by the name of George Nathan, I think that's his name. He said, bad officials are elected when good people don't vote. We want to make sure that everyone votes and that everyone should have the right to vote. And not to mention, empirical data says even those who have been involved in the criminal justice system, and I've been fighting for criminal justice reform, should have the right to vote. Now, think about this. In Minnesota, because I'm a lawyer as well, in Minnesota, we have long probationary periods, sometimes 10 years, 15 years, you name it. If a person, as they do now, under Minnesota statute section 609.165, you have to wait until you're off paper to vote. That means individuals who are in our community, paying taxes, raising families, being a contributing member of our society, can't allow their voice to be heard about who they want, be it the president, be it U.S. Senate, be it state senator, be it a county commissioner, be it city council, or even the school board, or even the park board.
Okay.
So I've been fighting against that, and I got the bill passed twice in the Senate, but the House was the problem back then, but we're continuing to try to get the House to, do the right thing. Here's another statistic that I want you to know. Do you not know that in the state of Minnesota, there are 57,000 people who are out on probation, who are on felony probation? 64% of those, most people think it's from the urban areas, but that's not true. 64% come from outstate Minnesota, and 36% of that 57,000 people come from Hennepin and Ramsey County. So this is not just based on where you live, even though we disproportionately make up those numbers in the criminal justice system because we disproportionately are criminalized. So that means we are not voting because some of us can't. Now, here's the other thing that I want you to take away from this conversation. If family members you know are felons and are no longer on paper, they can vote.
Does that include restitution? The restitution, all of them?
Put their phone on mute. Excuse me, but somebody need to put their stuff on mute because I can hear all their TV stuff on static. Please, I can't hear him. Thank you.
So if a person, once you are off probation, felony probation, your right to vote is automatically restored to you. You don't even have to go to court and ask for that right back.
Okay.
But you do have to go ask for that civil rights back if you're a felon and you want to possess a firearm. You have to petition the court. But voting, you don't. It's automatically restored to you. And if you still have restitution after you're done with probation, that becomes a judgment, right?
Okay, yes.
But it doesn't affect your right to vote. Once you are off paper, you are able and qualified to vote. Let me also make this statement. If you're on misdemeanor probation or gross misdemeanor probation, you can vote while you're on misdemeanor probation or gross misdemeanor probation. It is only felony probation that you can't vote you can't be on in the state of Minnesota and vote.
Wow.
And let me tell you, this is a point of discussion all the time. I remember, because I'm always outdoor knocking, and I often talk to people, which is kind of funny that Dennis didn't really know who I am, because I've seen Dennis in many different places, so that's pretty interesting. Is that when I'm out talking and knocking on doors, and I start engaging people about their right to vote, because after you go to it and you talk about education, you talk about healthcare, you talk about affordable housing, you do all that, and people are with you. And then you say, hey, I'm wondering if I can get your support at the polls. And people say, oh man, I want to vote for you, but I can't because I'm a felon. And then I say, are you on paper? They say, no. I say, then you can vote. And they say, no, I can't because I'm a felon. I say, if you're off paper, you can vote. They say, and I say, you can vote. They said, no, I can't. I say, yes, you can. And I said, who's the lawyer, me or you? Right.
Right.
And so it's true that there's that misconception out there that if you have a felony, that there's a lifetime ban, and that's not true in the state of Minnesota. Once you're off probation, felony probation, you are able to vote. But I'm trying to change that. So even if you're on felony probation, you should still have the right to vote.
You should. Awesome, that's good.
The right to vote in Minnesota. How do we protect that? How? Because I mean, people say we don't know who our senators are, we don't know who our elected officials are, we don't know who's talking for us at the Capitol. How do we get, the Capitol or street to our street where we can let people know how to get in contact with, our congressmen, how to get in contact with our senators? How do we make that happen where it's easier to transfer that information to people?
Yeah, that Dennis, that's a really, really good question. It is as easy as when Nikki Love saw me at a community event, and she said to me, hey, I want you to come on and talk to my friends about voting. It's just a mere request, right? And those who believe your voice and your vote is important, they take the time to come. But she asked the question. She didn't wait for me to come knock on her door. She asked me, because I don't always know every table that Nikki and other people sit at. And so I think what we can help do, and we're more than willing to help do that, if you share with us where you live, we can tell you who your state senator is, or who your state representative is, or who your county commissioner is, because then you must make connections with them, and so you make sure that they know that you count and you matter, and you start asking them questions about the things they're doing and not doing. But I said ask them questions. Don't just assume that they're not doing anything. Sometimes it may be true that some of them may not be doing anything, but you should ask the question and give them an opportunity to talk about what they've been doing. And so it's that simple, Dennis, just to pick up the phone. We can help you with that. We'd love to connect you with your senator or your representative so that you can get to know them, so you can start speaking into the political platform around issues that you hold near and dear to your heart. Whether it's chemical dependency, whether it's mental health. I heard someone say that that's Friday and the eagle gonna fly. They've been working. Guess what? You have expertise that we sometimes have or don't have. So we need to hear your voice. That's why this engagement is important for us to talk about what you like, what you see. What are some of the critical issues that you believe to be important? And ask us, what are we doing? Because we may be responding to them, but you just don't know it. So that's a great question.
Sally had a question.
Hey, Senator Champion.
Hello.
So I am unclear on the specific policy or law that is on the books in Minnesota that does not allow for us to hold police accountable. Can you speak to what that specific policy is that we need to change, if you know about it? And then also speak a little bit to the work that the Posse Caucus led around some police reform in Minnesota this year.
Thank you for that question. That's a great question. So remember that police reform has been something, I know, for an example, that I've been fighting for ever since I've been in the legislature. I've been fighting for a change in the policy around use of force, because I think they should have as a guiding principle preserving the necessity for life and not just shooting to kill. And that they should think about other possibilities that they can use in a contentious situation that doesn't require them to use a gun. Let me give you an example. I think there should be some real policy around use of tasers, and that there should be some policies around when you should use a taser and when you shouldn't, because some people have underlying medical issues. How do we deal with that? One of the other things that I think is important that ties into this is what sort of training are police officers receiving? Are they receiving training around de-escalation? Are they receiving training around mental health and how to identify it so that if someone is having a mental health episode, that they're able to recognize it? And are they collaborating with other multidisciplinary industries in order to enhance things? So use of force is one of those things that is a big issue. Banning chokeholds is one of those issues, and the Posse Caucus led on these issues as well. Residency requirements. Some people have talked about if the officers who patrol in the city of Minneapolis were also residents of the city of Minneapolis, they believe that they would behave differently because they would know each other, they would value the people who live here, and that would be important. So there's been some work around whether cities should be able to require residency of police officers. Now, why that became really important is because the police officer who murdered George Floyd is a resident of Florida, and not even a resident of the state of Minnesota. So we believe that the city of Minneapolis and any other city should be allowed to require police officers to live in their city limits if they want to patrol that area. That's something that they should explore and something that they should work on. Arbitration is something, Sina, because a number of police chiefs, and Arredondo being one of them, said when they get rid of bad police officers and they fire them, there is currently this mechanism that allow a police officer to arbitrate that matter. And the way our arbitrators are selected is stacked in the direction of the police officer as opposed to the chief. And therefore, once they go through arbitration, those bad apples return to the department and continue their bad practices and now feel emboldened because they got a positive outcome from an arbitrator. So those are just some of the things that I can think of off the top of my head that even the Pocket Caucus worked on, and we could not go quite as far as we wanted to because the Senate is controlled by Republicans and the House is controlled by Democrats. And in order to get something to the governor's desk, both the Senate and the House must agree even before it gets to the governor. So we need to flip the Senate in order to make sure that we can get the policies that we believe to be important onto the desk of the governor. So I hope that answers your question.
Can we get 5 minutes on why censorship?
Wait, I have a follow-up, Dennis. Wait.
I'm
So,
sorry.
thank you very much for answering that. Now, should the election turn out where all three branches of our state government are controlled by one group, is that group ready to have a backbone and make some bold policy
So to that question,
around
the short,
reform?
okay.
Because I'm hearing the reason we couldn't go as far as a lot of the activists wanted folks to go was because of this divided government. If the election comes out where the government is no longer divided in our state, is your caucus willing to have a backbone and stand up and put forth some meaningful reforms that folks in community want to see?
So to that question, the answer is yes. And I think this is also where you all will play a part. And here's where you continue to play a part. One, you definitely want the person or the people in control whose values align more with your values, right? You know that the Republicans are not going to want to do anything around law and order and how to make sure that police officers are accountable. You know about certain things like cannabis and whether we should have recreational marijuana. Other just a myriad of issues that we care near and dear about, that we need to have people in place who care about those same things and will allow, you know, real debate and community, and legislative engagement around those things. So specifically to your question, I believe that our caucus is prepared to do that, and we're always prepared to lead. Divided government is that it is divided, right? And in order to get some of the things done, it takes compromise. And if you have one side that's not willing to compromise and another two, then you will lack progress. And so I do think it's important for activists and for everyone to get out and make sure that folks turn out so we can get the outcome that we need. And let me also say this. I also think it's important for all of us to think broadly about a number of issues that we care about and some that we may not even realize are important to us, but we're open to having that discussion. One of the things that I think was missed in 2016 when we were fighting for who should be president, no one, but I can't say no one, very few people were talking about judges and appointment of judges.
Like Trump is doing now.
That's right. All the federal judges. I kept saying how important that was, but because people didn't have it on their radar and they thought something else was bigger, sexier, and whatever, they have now put us in a position where the Supreme Court can tilt and become more conservative. So all the issues we care about around healthcare or racial issues, or discrimination or whistleblowing, all that could be overturned, or even a woman's rights.
Yeah.
So we got to think broadly about these things and not so narrowly, because then we end up missing important issues. And then we end up letting someone else take the victory. And now we run the risk of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat going to a Republican.
Right.
I mean, but
because it's stacked right now.
Retired under Obama, and he could have replaced her so that we wouldn't be in this predicament.
He didn't want to retire.
No, that's untrue. Cena, that's untrue.
Could have stepped down just like Clarence Thomas could step down. They all have an option to retire. They don't have to stay there till they die. Now, I'm not like I'm all for them putting another liberal on the bench, but I'm just saying she was there for a long time.
Well, think about this.
Why are we not allowing other people to have that opportunity?
Well, let me answer your question by giving you a fact. Could she have stepped down years ago? Yes. But should we have to have her step down and for her not to be able to live out her lifelong commitment to the bench? Now think about this. When Merrick Garland was put forth by Obama because there was an opening, what happened with the Senate and Mitch McConnell and those guys?
I'm talking about when the Dems had control of all three. He
Hmm?
could have stepped down then. He could have put a younger person who we wouldn't have been in the situation.
They
where
would not. So
most
Cena,
likely would have died on the bench. That's all I'm saying.
Cena, I hope I'm
It's
pronouncing your name
Sina,
right.
Sina.
Oh,
Long
oh,
guy.
Sina. I'm
That's
sorry,
all.
Sina. Sina, don't you remember that Obama did put someone up, and that the Republicans and the Republican Senate would not even confirm his?
I'm talking about before February of 2016 when Scalia died.
Yeah, but it still requires the Senate to confirm them.
When I'm saying Obama was elected in 2008, Dems had control for
Yep.
a couple of years.
Yep, that's it.
Same, I mean, because that was the same situation that played out here too.
What do you mean played out here? I'm not certain what you're saying.
Oh, that the Dems had control of everything.
Oh, I totally agree. Because the Dems had control for those 2 years, and guess what? We should have passed restore the vote, which we passed in the Senate, and the House did not pass.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we should have passed a dedicated revenue stream for roads and bridges and all the other stuff. We could have passed a number of different things that people did not pass. So I sincerely believe that. But on the federal level is a slightly different question.
What they're doing, though, on the other side is they are looking and they're taking those opportunities when they have them to put young people up in there for younger justices so that they can, be there forever. But I think we were talking about this the other day, and some of us feel like
term limits.
Term limits.
I believe in term limits.
Yeah, term.
But we know that's not something the state deals with, so we won't put that on you. But I'm just saying, I feel like Dems are not always looking long term. More of a reactionary party, I'd say. I'm sorry, I'm still waiting on the vision.
No, point well taken. Okay, there was another question?
I want to know about the census. Is it important?
Yeah, I have a question. Now, I'm Bobby, by the way, same name.
Oh, hey, Bobby. Of course, I like Bobbies. Okay, that's good. Go ahead.
So back when Obama got in office, like you said, Dems had control. But I believe that I see that back then that they used every avenue out there to make sure everyone seen and heard and knew who he was. So my issue is with politicians today, by them opening the door, what are they doing to get the young folks out there? Okay, you can have us 40-year-olds, maybe 35 and up, you know what I'm saying? Maybe 35 and up. You have our attention, but what really matters is these young folks knowing who you are, what you're willing to do for them, because everyone don't watch the news. Everyone don't go to community events. You feel what I'm saying? How can you, Mr. Champion, get yourself out there and let the youngins see, okay, I know who he is. I seen him on Saturday Night Live. You're a Senate. I'm pretty sure they get you. I'm just giving you an example. Different things where young folks goes, President Obama and that whole him and his wife, they open the door for everybody. Even today, they stay relevant. They make sure we see them and know what they're doing. Where TikTok, because they on TikTok too, Facebook, any social media outlet, we see them, we hear them. So, but me being here for 5-6 years, I never knew who you was. You know what I'm saying? Now, I might have voted for you because I don't think I just seen that you was a Democrat. So
where do you live, Bobby? Where do you live, Bobby?
When I moved here, I used to live off of Irving Avenue and Irving Avenue over there by Solo. So I was
north.
Right now, I'm in Crystal, but still, I didn't know who you was. You feel what I'm saying? So, and I probably, like I said, I probably voted for it because what's instilled in our mind, Democrat is who we're supposed to give, which is wrong. You feel what I'm saying? I should not only vote for you because you're a Democrat, I should also vote for you because I know the issues that you're willing to work on for me. So my question is, because I know there was a long one, how can you get it out there to the kids? That's my
So good question. So one of the things that I do, and I hope that I do very well, is every time I hire someone, first of all, it's a young person. I've always, like Shamika's 30 years old, right? And I had Jonay before her. Oh, excuse me, I had Sarah before her, had Jonay before her. I've always created a pathway for African Americans and especially young people who may not have any experience in politics. So that's one. And I developed an intentional strategy to deal with young people. I'm dealing with young people always, be it our mentorship and discussions, be it interacting with them. I remember an initiative that I did with Maya Buckner, who a lot of people know now, called Balling for the Ballot. I come up with these creative ways to engage young people with 3-on-3 basketball or going to many different things that they're doing. In fact, we're having a teen, for lack of a better word, like a summit or even a virtual teen town hall meeting to engage young people. So I'm constantly engaged with young people. But I believe that we should also continue to open up those doors. And I've been fighting for young people around employment opportunities, as well as making sure that there's money available for after school activities or for things for young people to be engaged, because I think that's a part of the problem and challenges that we're having right now, is because our community organizations no longer have the resources that they need. And so now young people are out creating their own opportunities to interact with each other without having safe spaces or trusting adults there, and they're making decisions in a vacuum. So in addition to that, we are doing things on every social media platform. Now, the one I'm not doing anything on is TikTok, because you're not going to get me on there dancing, because you definitely don't want me to dance. Let me just say that. Although I know how to dance, I don't want to have to go back to the robot or the four corners or anything like that, right? So I'm always engaged with young people. So your question is well taken, but I think that we have to be much more intentional. And so that's why I don't do things just on the news and on television, but also social media platforms, other community opportunities geared towards young people. They're not just opportunities to be out there. So I know from Ashley Henderson to a slew of young people, because I'm always dealing with young people. So I always believe there's room for improvement, though, Bobby. I think that's your biggest point more than anything else, because we do want to make sure that we are engaging every spectrum of our community. And I do think that there has to be balance, and I do think that they all warrant respect and insight and opportunities to engage with you. And so we try to do that as much as humanly possible. And I think that we've been pretty successful doing that. But again, my motto is that there's always room for improvement. So your point is well taken, and we'll continue to do that.
Awesome.
Did you do the 5 seconds on the census?
On the what?
The importance of the census?
Census is very important, because every 10 years, what they do is that they try to count the number of people who are in America, right? And the census has importance because the appropriation of U.S. House seats and districts are developed as a result of numbers and counting. Where there's population growth, they will continue to increase when it comes to representatives in Congress. Where population declines, they take away representation in Congress. The second place that is important on a state level for redistricting, that determines also where those lines are. Like, for an example, when North Minneapolis experienced a tornado, and then there was a census, we had lost folks on the A side of the district, and every district has to have the same number of people. So I represent 80,000 people. So when the A side of my district lost population, it increased in downtown. So we had to move the lines, right? And those lines are reapportioned. So right after the census, that's why every elected runs again, because those lines may be different, and you may now be representing people that you originally did not represent. Here's the other reason why the census is important: the allocations of federal funds. A lot of federal funds are predicated on population. And so when you are undercounted, then you run the risk of not getting federal funds for like education and for economic development, you name it. So that's why that's important. Now, that's why it's also important to make sure that we have the right people going to the door, questioning folks and asking them these questions around the census, because you know how we are in the Black community. If we see somebody with a shirt and tie coming up to the door that's white, we think either they're Jehovah's Witness or we think they are the feds or somebody, right?
Feds is
And
coming.
so it's important for us to have the right people who have that credibility, that look like people, so there's a level of comfort and trust, so that we can make sure everyone gets counted. This is also important for immigrants, because immigrants believe someone coming up to the door dressed a certain way may be someone from immigration, right? Right, ISIS, right? And so the census is very important, federal funds and all the other things. Now, one of the things that I think should change when it comes to the census, and this is getting more in the weeds, and if I'm too far in the weeds, you can tell me to come out of the weeds, right?
Don't talk about it.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead and talk about it.
They're gonna talk about gerrymandering.
Gerrymandering is one of those things, right? You know, because of the fact that they called packing and putting certain people together so that they can have more possibility for others. That's important. But let me tell you another issue that's important, and most people don't think about it. Have you ever, and I'm going to make the point demonstratively, right? Have you ever been out to a prison? Stillwater, Faribault, Lino Lakes. What does it look like around those areas? Anybody?
Nothing's around those areas. Maybe big fields outside those prisons. I mean, they're out in the middle of nowhere.
But guess what they are? They're out in the middle of nowhere, and it's usually well manicured. They have other places that look nice. It looks great. You know why that is? It's because what happens is those small towns use those inmates as a part of their numbers. So remember those federal funds that I was just talking about? They now get access to more federal funds, even than North Minneapolis, because they got such an overwhelming number of people built in there that they can count as residents of their town. Because the census defines residence as where a person resides, not even if it's temporary, where they're sleeping. I believe the residency notion under the census should include a definition that allows us, the communities where they've come from, to get the benefit of that population, so that we have a better shot at getting those community block grants and other things that we need that would bring us economic vitality, more money for education, and some of the other things that we believe to be important. But that's one of those things I just thought I would throw in, just so you know that there are these other issues that are out there that I care deeply about.
Well, that is a big part of the census that we need to be aware of. And thank you for bringing it to attention.
Yes. Any other questions that I can help with?
I got one more, the last one from me. I want you to go back and talk about community policing. What is the issue behind it being a policy that police officers come from the neighborhoods that they live in to have a greater impact on the neighborhood? What is that policy behind that?
Okay, so now you use the term community policing. That's a different definition than what I talked about earlier. I talked about the residency requirement, because community policing has a whole nother connotation to it.
Okay, I apologize for stretching it. Let's go with the resident requirements. Why can't they be required to live in the community that they work in?
Well, that's one of the things that I said that the legislature is wrestling with, right? Because there was a decision many years ago where there was a change that said police officers didn't necessarily have to reside in the communities they were policing. What we've tried to do is reintroduce that back into the process by authorizing cities to be able to do that, because most people don't get this. You understand that the legislature does not have direct control over city police departments. Not at all. We can have policies that should be implemented statewide, but we do not have day-to-day control of police departments.
Correct.
But what we do believe is that maybe there will be a difference in the way police, number one, value the community, treat the community, or have a notion of accountability around communities if they were required to live in those communities. We're not saying from the legislature that they have to do it, but we think that there should be the authorization so the city councils can vote on those things because they're closer to the people. So we think that local municipalities should have the control and make those decisions, and not just us from the state making those decisions. Let me also give you a personal story. So when I was growing up, there were several police officers, Black police officers, who lived in the neighborhood, from Leo Johnson to Officer Roberts to Charlie Adams to, you just go on. I could keep naming them, right?
Well,
And
when we were young, we knew all the Black officers.
and we knew them. So there was a different experience we had with them. In fact, we trusted them, and our parents trusted them because they knew each other. They would go to the Cato's with each other. They go to the Taste or wherever it was, right? They knew each other.
At church.
And guess what? And at church. So if somebody was misbehaving or somebody wasn't doing right, guess what happened? There would be that discussion, and there would be changes because that information has come forward. And we always felt like there was an opportunity that when someone could have been given a break or an opportunity, that they were going to be given a break or opportunity to get home and not just become a part of the system. That changed when this residency notion went forward, right? So there's a belief, and I don't think it's just nostalgia, but I think that there are some real important guiding principles that that makes sense when someone is a member of your community and your neighborhood, and they have a different respect for the neighborhood. I want police officers to understand that their job is to serve and protect, not to just govern us. That we should be working together in order to make sure our communities are safe. But I don't want us to feel like if we call the police that we run the risk of being brutalized or talked down to or disrespected because we are devalued. And so I think there is something to this whole residency requirement, and I think that should be explored by local municipalities, and they should have the authority by which to make that decision.
Okay, because that's something I definitely want to push, because, you know, like you said, we are a lot more comfortable talking to someone that we know from the neighborhood versus someone that doesn't give two pennies about what we do or what we say, because they're not from our neighborhood.
Absolutely.
From the other side of the tracks, so to speak.
And in fact, Leo Johnson, who used to be an SRO, a student resource officer, right, at North High School, he was so instrumental in the community and at North High School that when he tragically died from a car accident, there was a drum corps that was put together in his honor. It's a well-known drum corps that traveled all over the country representing Minneapolis, called the Leo Johnson Drum Corps. That was named after a police officer from our community.
We need those days back. I really believe so.
And I was a part of the Leo Johnson Drum Corps. That's how I know.
Wow. So I want to ask one more question for the, I know we got 15 minutes left. I want to know the importance of voting in this election this time. You know, because.
So good question.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Dennis. I didn't mean to step on you, buddy. Did you want to finish?
No, that was my question. You know, what's the importance of this election, you know, to get it with it? Because I know Jeff didn't get elected this time again. You know, that's a buddy of mine too. So I'm thinking, you know, what's important this time to make sure that we get it right?
Well, that's a really good question. I like to start with this phrase that says, bad officials are elected when good people don't vote. When we sit on the sidelines and we just let other people vote and make the decision, then we are forfeiting or giving up our power. And I believe that every election is important. And I often say to people, if it wasn't important, why would people try so hard to stop you from voting? We don't usually try to stop somebody from doing something that's not important. If you go back to 1865 and when we started being able to vote, or at least there's some trickling of it in 1870, ever since that time, they've been doing everything within their power to stop us from voting, from poll tax to threatening you, to you name it. Because the power of an elected office is key, because they make major decisions that impact our life. So when we think about 2020, you are thinking about who's going to lead our country, and are we as a country going to continue to go backwards? Think about COVID-19. We're dealing with a pandemic right now where scientists and doctors are trying to tell us exactly what to do, but we don't have the leadership from the powers that be, from the presidency, to even talk about a masking mandate and just having a comprehensive policy. And as a result, there's no direct policy or strategy to help deal with the fact that we as people of color are the individuals who are gravely impacted by this pandemic. When you think in terms of rates of infection, when you think in terms of hospitalization, and by proxy, the number of deaths. Because we're usually in those jobs where we have to be on the front line and be exposed. You can't necessarily do your job from home if you're a bus driver.
No.
We are also the individuals who usually have underlying medical conditions that make, this pandemic much more gravely when it comes to us, or we are more at risk. Not having anyone who understands the sensitivity of these issues becomes important. Here's the second thing. Our country is going through an evolution process for us to have to deal with the racial issues and the way that people of color are being dealt with. We are the worst. We have the worst when it comes to just achievement, or even the gaps in home ownership, gaps in healthcare, gaps in wealth building, you name it. We especially in Minnesota alone too, we are the worst when it comes to these gaps.
Correct.
And it's also national, because if you think in terms of our brothers and sisters in Chicago, and you can think of every other black belt that you wanted to, Milwaukee, it doesn't matter. These challenges are still the same, because we need leadership at the top, and we need to make sure that also spills down into our state houses as well. It is very important for us to get out and vote, and for our voice to be heard, because there's issues around criminal justice reform that we have to deal with. How about CHIPS and foster care? We talk about, and we should talk about separation of families on the southern border, but how about the fact that everyday black families are being separated in the child protection system?
Correct. Yep.
That's federally funded.
Mm-hmm.
How about the fact that even when you think in terms of education, how our teachers are being forced to go back to school, and even, Trump was saying if you didn't go back to school, then you're going to find ways for your school not to get the resources because you were not going back, and totally ignoring their health and their mental health and all the other things. Is that the sort of leadership we want? How about our standing in the world?
Right.
These are important issues, along with judicial judgeships, and you can just go on and on. There's such a myriad of issues that we care about, but if you don't have the right person with a vision, or even the economic development aspect of things, and bringing back jobs and creating those opportunities to help guide us through this pandemic. How about states we may have a $4 billion deficit here in the state of Minnesota. What is the federal government going to do? The two largest portions, the two largest portions of Minnesota's budget are education and health and human services. So if you're going to have to cut, because people are not going to have enough money by which to, talk about new taxes or finding new ways by which to generate revenue, where are the cuts going to come from? Health and human services and education. The two things that we say we believe to be very important as well. So this election is very important.
What about marijuana potential for revenue from legalization?
Yeah, think about that, because the Republicans are not going to do it. So if you don't get the right people in office, right now there are bills and there are policies that we put forward in the Senate that we can't even get committee hearings for, because we don't have the right person at the helm. Cannabis is one of those things. Legalization. And guess what? There could be taxes and money generated from that. But if you can't get it passed, if you don't have both bodies that will pass a comprehensive cannabis bill, how about reparations? People have been talking about reparations,
Yes.
right? If there's no money, if you
yes,
don't have the right people thinking about it, guess what? It just continues to be something that we admire as opposed to something that we work on in order to make sure that we are righting the ship, for lack of a better word. So I believe that this election, like every election, has its value. There's no election more important and valuable than right now. So I encourage people to vote. How can you vote? You can request an absentee ballot if that's what you want to do, because you want to vote from home because of the pandemic. Do you realize that you can request an absentee ballot that is sent to your home, but you can drop it off at one of the early voting sites in order to make sure it's counted right away? So if you don't even want to send it back through the postal service, you don't have to. Let's say that you just want to vote early. You don't want to vote November 3rd. There are actually early voting sites that you can go to in person and vote right now.
Yes.
You don't have to wait. If you want to wait until November 3rd, you have that right that you can do that. But guess what? By all means, vote as if your life depends on it, because it really does.
It does. It does.
Can I ask
Thank
you
you.
a question before we jump off?
Yes.
You brought up the reparations bill. Can I ask what was behind putting Native Americans on our reparations bill?
So here's what it was. It was an introduction because they were thinking about a number of different things. That is not going to be the bill that's going to go forward. That's being crafted right now. That I'm crafting one that I'm working with a number of our community folks around, that I think would be a better bill. Bottom line is that none of our bills are going to even get heard if we don't have the right people in place. So if we had every I dotted and T crossed just the way that you wanted, Republicans are not and would not even hear it. So we want to make sure that we change that and that we have the right bill that would be helpful.
Thank you.
Can we thank this senator for being with us tonight and giving us this information?
Thank
And how
you.
can we
And you guys
afford
need
this?
me?
Thank you, Senator.
Yes. How do we make sure that we can do more of these? Because I like the information, and I like the fact that we can talk to you face to face, or at least over Zoomcast. This makes it more real.
Absolutely. Listen, I stand at your service. I don't care where you live. You know, there's now with Senator Jeff Hayden not in the Senate, there was only Hayden and I that were the
agree.
black
I
senators,
agree.
right?
You know, and I do know you because we have been around when both of you were at everything that I came to, even with Mad Dads and things of that nature. So
Right.
yes, I recognize that. So that's why I was trying. We should have you on some kind of way to make sure that everybody knows that same thing. How personable, you know, how everything in plain clothes, you know, without a suit on, just like
Right.
everyone else. So I like that.
And listen, I stand at your service. So, you know, I don't care if you live in Crystal, I don't care if you live in Buffalo. I have people that call me from all over because I'm the black senator, right? Who's usually up fighting the Republicans, fighting Democrats for the things that we need. And you heard me right when I said I fight Republicans and I fight Democrats, because what's important to me is for our community to have the resources and tools that they need. And economic development and jobs is one of those things. I don't think we should only be caught up with social service notion issues, but we gotta also have bread and butter issues. We gotta make money. The common denominator for every disparity that we are thinking about is poverty. I don't care which one you choose. Poverty is.
Yes.
And we have to change that. So even when they were having the debate about the minimum wage, I was telling them that the debate should be about a livable wage.
Yes. Yes.
Because if you give me a minimum wage and I'm still poor, it may be more, but I'm still poor.
Exactly.
Didn't move out the box at all. Yep.
Right? So those are the things that I fight for. Those are the things that I am known for, as well as all the other important issues that all communities would find important, because I think it's important to improve all of our quality of life, period.
I appreciate you. I just wanted to make sure that everybody else got to know who you were.
Yep,
And the fact that
thank
they were
you.
asking questions, so that, you know, we can make more of these conversations in the future, I would love to do that.
And we can help Shamika. My legislative assistant is on the line there. There she is. She's showing her picture with her side profile with the red on it.
Thank you,
see right there.
Shamika. Thank you, Shamika, as well.
Thank you,
And
Nikki, for
And
picking
thank
this
you,
up.
Nikki. Yep.
And thank
Thank
you,
you, Bobby
Nikki.
Joe.
Thank you, Nikki. And
Thank
Nikki
you,
has Nikki has the right last name too. Nikki Love. Doesn't she got that right last
Yes,
name? Love.
that's why she's a board member.
That's right.
Yes,
We
yes.
appreciate Nikki Love. And I told her privately, and I'll say publicly, how much I appreciate her. Every time I see her, I tell her how much I appreciate her. Because to me, that's what we should be doing, to elevate each other and encourage each other and be there for each other and stand in the gap when we need to. Because too often we can throw arrows at each other, but how often do we throw love at each other, right? And love on each other. And to me, that's important, no matter where we are, okay?
Thank you, Bobby Joe. I love you.
Love you more, okay?
And
Thanks again for showing up.
Thank
I
you
appreciate
again,
that. I know you got
Senator.
a busy day.
All right, thank you. And you see, I still have my shirt and tie on from
Yes.
court because I'm a lawyer too, right? I
Right.
came in just so I could be ready and in order to talk to you all. This is my Sunday best too. You know that I got my side profile going on for you.
President Liver
Okay.
Color, hey
Now,
man.
this is. Well,
Thank you.
Debbie,
God bless.
get some time and wind down.
Yeah,
Wind
thank you
down.
so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have
God
a good
bless.
one. Thank you.
Thank you,
Same to you.
Shamika. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank y'all. Have a good day.
Promise.
Well, before we cut off today and let everybody go, do we have any announcements to share with anybody, just to double check?
We're gonna be talking to Q Bear next week on Wednesday from KMOJ. He agreed to come on and give us history or ask me a question. If you got something to ask Q Bear, we're gonna be talking to Q Bear on Wednesday.
All right.
Oh, and we will have Miss Shy Ellis on Monday with the health and wellness with Kevin. And is it DeAndre?
Yes.
She said yes, she'll do it. I gotta sit in the office with her to make sure she come on, so I'll be there.
And
Monday
that'll be
will be-
Monday.
That'll be Monday.
Right,
All right.
right. Dennis, mark that
Busy
on the
week
paper,
next week.
Dennis.
Huh?
Mark that on the paper. You and Mel, mark that on the paper.
We got you. We got you.
All
Well,
right.
Dennis, what you
everybody.
doing, Bobby?
Hold on, Bobby got something to
Hold
say.
on. Hold on. We got it almost over. What did you say, Bobby?
Also, look out for Dead Old Country Boy Mobile Market. It will be in your neighborhood near you. It's Dead Old Country Boy Mobile Market. We will be selling everything that's essential, especially fruits and vegetables, which we all need to partake in. But that's Dead Old Country Boy Mobile Market. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, I'm on it. That's That Old Country Boy Mobile Market. And also you can reach me at thatoldcountryboy.com. All right? That Old Country Boy Mobile Market, fresh vegetables and fruit in your neighborhood.
All right, Bobby. But again, thank you everyone for joining us for another episode of the BIPOC Happy Hour. The BIPOC Happy Hour is a production of the Minnesota People Color Pride. We want to thank the Senator Bobby Joe Champion for joining us again today. And again, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, panel. And we're going to get out of here. Thank you, everybody. See you all next time. Have a great one.